Alright, back again, Luke here. And today, what we're going to do is try and perform a miracle. If you guys remember, this is a 6-slot board that I wound up getting off of Jamie Sykes, a YouTuber here. And this board has seen much better days. If you guys take a look down here, you can see the traces are eaten away. And these traces are about as thin as a piece of hair, if not thinner. And so close that if you try to, put new traces down there, if you're not careful and you're not 100% exact, they will touch. But what we're going to do is try and go over these broken traces that are all over this board here. You can see the ones that are eaten away. And we're going to try and replace them. Try and get this board up and running again. Now this is just the top part of the board. If we take a look at the bottom part here, the bottom section, that's where the battery was leaking, and the leaky battery was actually the one that was causing all of the damage to the top part of the board. You might be asking yourself, how did it do that? Well, you have to take a look at the bottom of the top board here to understand that. So we'll flip this over, and you guys can see a little bit more of the damage and destruction that has gone on the bottom of this board. Now, for some of these, I don't know if these are completely eaten away yet, or if it's just the mask that's eaten away on top of them. But for some of them, it's not looking really good. You can see over here there are tons and tons of wires or traces here that look like they are just completely eaten away. This has got some scratches on it. There's a lot of corrosion around these different pinouts here. Can see that they're corroded. Yeah, so this is going to be a really difficult, very challenging project. Probably one of my most challenging projects yet, just due to the amount of corrosion leakage on this board and the amount of repairs that this thing is going to need. Depending on how bad these traces are eaten away. I can see some of them are already eaten away totally, but we're going to have to try and patch it, try and get it going again. I don't want to see this thing die here, so we are going to give this a shot, and yeah, we'll see how things go. Let's get to getting this masking off of here, solder mask, and trying to put down some fresh solder over the top here to try and connect these traces up. So we'll get on that now. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm trying to sand down the solder mask, or the masking on these traces here. And I've noticed a couple of things here. I mean, there are a few traces that are going to have to be patched, but in some cases here where the repairs were made, you can see that there's some solder that has actually made bridges between a couple of these, and some of the missing traces there. These are actually caused by too much flux and too much heat on a soldering pen, which will eat away those traces. And it's something that if you don't know, or if it's the first time trying to do it with these kind of traces, it will happen. It's okay. It's an experiment. You never know what's going to happen until you try it out. But yeah, too much heat and too much solder can cause a severe issue. You can see there where it's like eating away at the traces themselves. It just gets so hot, and these traces are so thin that they just get eaten away. So I might have to patch a couple of regular wires here, which is probably what I'll do for most of them, that are eaten away. But for the other ones here, I'll try and see if I can patch them up. Hopefully they're still semi good. We'll see. I'll get out the old continuity meter, and we'll test to see if it gets sound on all these different pins. But after that, we'll plug it in and see what's going on. But we'll have to get this side done first, and then we'll flip it over into the other side and patch those traces. This seems to be the worst one, so we'll get this bottom part done here. All I'm going to do is go over this with some flux and some solder, and try not to bridge any points. Try and fix the ones that are on there. So let's give that a shot. Alright, so I thought I'd show you guys what I'm working with here. If you look down here, you can see those very fine wires there. And those are the traces that I'm rebuilding here. You can see the gaps in there. There's a couple of those lines that are reattached. These are the traces which I have retraced. There's some in here which aren't, they aren't the prettiest, like these ones. These ones I might have to go back over again. But they are not touching. All of these are, fine. There's another one there. These ones I just kind of spaced apart just so that it would be easier to, so they didn't make contact. This one here, retrace that one. So I'm going along here trying to retrace the ones. This one was one of the most difficult ones, and so is this one because these traces are on a curve. So you can see that gaping hole in there. That's what I have to fill in. So far, the gaping hole kind of started from here in the middle, so I've already gotten halfway through it. Just got to finish with the other ones. And to give you guys an idea of how thin these traces are, here is a piece of the wire that I'm using. It might not even show up on camera. It's so thin. And let me see if I can make a better comparison here for you. I know this thing isn't gonna, it's not even gonna focus. Let's see. Okay. Let's clear a spot on the floor here. Alright. You know what I really need? I need a piece of white paper. This will make it easier to compare the wire that I'm using here. So there's a piece of wire, and here is a piece of human hair. So just to show you, the left side is wire, the right side is hair. Well, now it's all mixed up. But it's the same length and the same, it's the same size as one strand of hair. And that's what I'm retracing up here. For some people, they'll say, oh, that's crazy, that's impossible, But not impossible, it's just improbable. For some people, maybe a little bit impractical, but for myself, I have really, really, it's really strong, nearsightedness. So without any glasses, without any contacts in, I can see really clearly. So for me, this is not... this is challenging, don't get me wrong, but it's not impossible. So some people will ask, like, why are you doing that? Why don't you just, put a bunch of jumper wires on there? Well, the key thing with me and jumper wires, I think it looks horrible. It looks really, really gaudy. Looks bad. On top of that, it really, you don't need the same thickness as some of the jumper wires. I mean, these traces here, they were made this thin for a reason. A lot of these are just data lines, and you wouldn't need a 3-gauge cable or something like that on a regular car battery. You don't need something super thick for a really simple job. So, but some other people may be asking, like, what about bridging? Are you bridging any of the traces? Well, here I have my continuity meter, and I'll go over all of these traces one by one and just testing to make sure that they, nothing's bridging. So I'm testing each single one of these wires before I move on to the next one. And if it's not making 100% contact each time, and if it's not, if it's not solid, then I go back over it and I make sure I get it done until it reads perfectly, and it's not, it's obviously not touching any of the other wires. But it's hard to tell through the camera, but all these wires are non-touching. So, but yeah, I figured I'd share this with you while I'm in the process here. I've got the bottom part of it pretty much done as well. There's one wire that I had to jump just because it was really in a strange place. It was like in between a bunch of these other ones. There's some other wires that I've jumped over here on the side. You can see there's another one that I've jumped, the trace wire. You can see where it was eaten away at. Here's another one that I had to jump here, another one up there. And these are a little bit thicker because I have more room to work with on these ones. So this wire here is a bit thicker than the one that you just saw on the front. But yeah, it's getting there. A lot of acid I had just eaten away at the bottom of the board. A lot of this trace mask removal going on, and a lot of the checking going on here. I scratched it up here, scuffed it up, went around each one of these pins, started testing them. I mean, it really looks rough, right, compared to the rest of the board here, but once I get everything on the front done here, and then on the bottom board, I'm going to put it back together and test it, and then what I'll probably do is hit this up with a little bit of paint just to cover up all the bare traces on it. so I don't have to worry about these things rusting or corroding and then causing more trouble. So yeah, let's get to finishing the rest of this top part here. Like I said, I just have that small space, that really tiny gap right there that I have to fill up. That's about 4 more strands of copper wire, and once we do that, we'll go on to the bottom part. So let's jump on that and get this done. Alright, so we've got everything patched back up here, and as soon as it focuses, if it will focus, you guys can see down there that hole is now patched up. You've got all the traces back in there. Everything seems to be making good continuity on all of these traces that I've checked, even though, you know, the color may be looking a little bit discolored there. They all seem to be making pretty good contact. And the bottom board here, put on a couple of new traces that were eaten away on the ends here. These 3 here, so those are retraced. Went over these traces here. It seems like, yeah, it might be okay. I don't know. Let's. I guess the next step is to plug this beast in here and give it a shot, test it out, see what it does or what it doesn't do. But hopefully it'll at least fire on and, you know, be able to play some games again. I suppose I would be happy with 5 slots if all 6 didn't work, but I'm kind of hoping for 6, you know. Maybe I'm setting my expectations a little bit high. Maybe it won't even turn on, but we'll give it a shot here and see what it does. But let's go on to that and see what happens. Alright, so we've got this thing all put back together. You can see the traces down there, maybe. Probably not. It's a little bit dark. But we got it all put back together. I got all 6 of these games in here. And I figured we could give this a shot and see what's going on with it. And kind of hope for the best here. So, got it all plugged in. And let's hit the old switch here. Alright, well, it looks like it's kind of checking the different games, possibly. Oh yeah! Oh man, okay. Well, at least it's turning on. Looks like we got a couple of lines here that are out. Right. Well, at least it's powering on. Have to go over a couple of those traces again. Double check here. Let's see how many of these are working. Let's see how many slots we got. There's slot 1. Slot 2, good. Slot 3. Slot 4. 5. 6. Alright, well at least we got all 6 slots working. Just got to work out those graphic issues on there. But that's pretty awesome. Nice. Now I'm gonna see, I don't know, you know, which chip it is. That's gonna be fun to hunt down, or which trace, but yeah, I don't know. Seems like, did the sound go away? Yeah, it seems like the sound's not working on this. All right. Well, one step closer. Let's go back to the old soldering pen here and see what we can do about those graphic issues here. Hopefully, work them out. All right. So as you can see here, it's starting to come back together a little bit better. It really depends on the game. You can see there's still some flickering going on there up at the top on this side here. It depends on the game, really, and it depends on the slot that it's in. It's starting to clear up a little bit more. You can see, you know, there's still some glitches on there. I believe there's a couple of traces that are bad underneath one of these chips, as you can see here. RBS is not looking so good. But I'm going to have to go through here, and I've only got the 5 in right now, so you guys can see there. I found a couple of bad traces that were hidden on the bottom there, and I replaced those, and I think that's what got back my sound for, yeah, man, I hate that intro. I hate English. But yeah, I got back my sound on each one of the slots here, which is good. And, you know, the graphics are kind of clearing up, but there's a couple of chips over here that I'm going to try and lift up. I'm going to see if I can desolder them and pull them out, because they look green around the sides there, and there's probably a couple of traces underneath those ICs. Specifically, these ones over here. Those ones over there are, there's a couple of them that look pretty green, and you could see that there was a little bit of corrosion underneath them, but I'm going to see if I can get that out and clean those up. But yeah, I mean, it's looking a lot better just by, you know, you can see. Sometimes it's kind of pulling itself together by itself, which is kind of awesome. I let it warm up here a little bit, and it's getting much, you know, clearer. So I was happy about that. I don't know, who knows, maybe it just needs to... I don't know, maybe there's a couple of connections from some of the flux or something. I don't know, once it heats up it might clear it up, I don't know. But you can see here, I mean, it's really trying hard. It's trying hard to come back, and come back perfectly. Maybe I'll just let it run for a little while. This part doesn't look so great, you know. But maybe I'll let it run for just a little bit longer, let it heat up a little bit, and see if it, you know, if there's any connections with like any of the alcohol or anything, like the oil, any residue that's causing the stuff to bridge and stay like this. Plus, it'll be a good way to test this, make sure this thing is going to stay running. You know, even though it's got glitches on it right now, it's not extremely horrible, so it should be okay if I just let it run. But I want to test it and make sure that it at least holds up for a little while. But nonetheless, I mean, it's working. You know, it's just not working perfectly. So we'll try and do some more work on it and see what we can get. Alright, well, I couldn't desolder this thing, so what I did is I got out my little Dremel tool here. This thing works out very nice for removing ICs. Got a little wheel on here, a little blade, and I just went across the top here, and as I had expected, you can see under there are a couple of very green traces, and I would assume those are not making contact. I'm going to have to go and double check, but that would be nice if that was the problem there. And what I've done is I've just kind of cut it along the edge here. The chip may be okay, so I'm going to try and reuse it. I'll just put new solder down when I go to put it back together. But yeah, that does not look good under there. So let's try and fix that up and see what we can do. Alright, so as you guys can see here, it's pretty much far from perfect, you know, but it is a lot better than what it used to be. You can see that the text now is pretty solid. In the background there are some lines still, and they're in every single slot in every single game, but the game itself, you know, they're all playing with sound. Let's try and turn this up a little bit. But you can see there is some lines in the background there, but this is really good compared to where it came from. It originally wouldn't boot anything, and it was pretty garbled at the beginning, trying to work it out. A lot of, you know, a lot of work just to get this far. This is one whole day's worth of work that I've been doing at 8 o'clock in the morning until, yeah, 7 o'clock at night. Almost non-stop, just trying to get this thing to fire on and work perfectly. But unfortunately, you know, it's not perfect. I just don't know which pin it's going to be or which trace it's going to be in order to get this thing to come out, you know, perfect. But it's definitely off to a good start. And for the most part, I'm really pleased with how far it's gotten. At least it's playable. You could easily play this. I mean, it doesn't look the greatest, and some people say, oh, you know, it looks like really garbage, but yeah, it's come a long way from being a dead board. But yeah, I think we'll just leave it here for a while. I'll come back and work on it a little bit more later and see what happens. But just thought I'd share with you guys the progress or the adventure here with this Neo Geo MVS 6-slot board, and kind of back from the dead, semi back from the dead. But yeah, that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching.
Ninja combat.